Namaste. Myself, Dr. Mrs. Preeti Sunil Joshi, working as Assistant Professor with the Department of Humanities and Basic Sciences from Walchand Institute of Technology, Solapur. I welcome you all in the session of optical fibers. By the end of this session, the students will be able to state the history and development in the fiber optic communication. The contents include the history of optical fiber and the generations of optical fiber communication. Big technological advances often start with very humble beginnings. If you are reading any post or watching any video on the internet right now, it is almost certain that the information has come to you at some point in the journey in the form of light passing through the fiber optic cables. These transparent glass threads almost perfectly trap light within them, allowing it to journey without harm from one end to the another. The use of light to carry digital information allows massive amounts of data to be transmitted over long distances in a cheap and efficient manner and is the foundation of modern telecommunications. The earliest attempts to communicate via light undoubtedly go back thousands of years. Early long distance communication techniques such as smoke signals developed by native North Americans and the Chinese were in fact optical communication links. The smoke signal is one of the oldest forms of long distance communication. It is a form of visual communication used over a long distance. In general, smoke signals are used to transmit news, signal danger, or to gather people to a common area. To create smoke signals, Native Americans used fire and a blanket. The smoke signals did not spell out words. Instead, they were simple and were usually in columns or short puffs. But at the same time, they were complex, so enemy tribes could not interpret their messages. The most common messages which many tribes could recognize were: one puff means attention, two puffs means everything is fine, three puffs means danger. So depending on the wood burnt, spirals, circles, zigzags and parallel lines and the color of the smoke could be altered. A larger scale version of this optical communication technique was the optical telegraph, deployed in France and elsewhere in the late 18th century. The optical telegraph was a series of tall towers that passed along messages at a rate of few words per minute by means of large semaphore flags that could be manipulated to spell out words. Jean-Daniel Colladon, a 38-year-old Swiss professor at University of Geneva, demonstrated light guiding or total internal reflection for the first time in 1841. He wanted to show the fluid flow through various holes of a tank and the breaking up of water jets. However, in the lecture hall, the audience could not see the flowing water. He solved the problem by collecting and piping sunlight through a tube to the lecture table. The light was focused through the water tank and was made to incident on the edge of the jet at a glancing angle. Total internal reflection trapped the light in the liquid, forcing it to follow the curved path until the water jet broke up. Instead of traveling in a straight line, the light followed a curvature of the water flow. An illustration of Colladon's device is shown in the photograph here, taken from a later article written in 1884. On one side of the water tank is fixed a converging lens to concentrate the light and focus it into the output nozzle on the other side. This nozzle could be adjusted or replaced to produce larger or smaller streams. You might wonder, if the light is totally confined within the jet, it will only spill out when it hits the basin. However, a number of useful variations can be performed to make the stream visible at other points. If the water is clouded with a small amount of dust or dirt, the dirt particles will scatter the light and allow it to escape the water tube, potentially making the stream visible throughout its length, though it will be most bright at the nozzle. Also, if the water is dropped from a great height or a thinner stream is used, the jet will break up in the mid-air The light will then scatter out, making the broken region sparkle. Koledon's experiment is not only a wonderful demonstration of optics but also an inherently beautiful phenomena. This latter observation was not lost on others, who implemented the trick into decorative fountains. In 1889, Paris World's Fair, a fountain known as the Fountainus Luminis used the effect to produce multicolored jets of water that dazzled audiences every evening of the fair. Lights under the water would shine up and through colored glass, producing jets of red, blue, green, and gold. Who could imagine at the time that such a simple and beautiful effect would later form the basis of a revolution in communication? After that, Koledon sent a paper to his friend Arago, who headed the French Academy of Sciences. Arago recalled that Babinet, a French specialist in optics, had made similar demonstrations in Paris. He focused candlelight onto the bottom of a glass bottle as he poured a thin stream of water from the top. Total internal reflection guided the light along the jet. Arago asked Babinet to write down his work, but Babinet did not think that the work is very important. Yet he made a comment that the idea also works very well with a glass shaft curved in whatever manner, and I had indicated that it could be used to illuminate the inside of the mouth. After sending his letter to Arago, Babinet never returned to guiding to light before he died in 1872. Koledon mentioned only water jets. Babinet, who specialized in optics, extended the principle to guiding light along bent glass rods. Yet Babinet also knew the limits of glass technology. Examining lighthouse lenses, he had found that the best glasses of his time were not very clear, so light couldn't go far through them. Then in 1870, John Tyndall, using a jet of water that flowed from one container to another and a beam of light, demonstrated that light used internal reflection to follow a specific path. As water poured out through the spout of his first container, Tyndall directed a beam of sunlight at the path of water. The light, as seen by the audience, followed a zigzag path inside the curved path of the water. This simple experiment, illustrated as shown in the diagram here, marked the first research into the guided transmission of light. Experiments several years later, then in 1880, by scientist Willing, expanded on Tyndall's work. He patented a method of light transfer called piping light. Using several mirrored pipes that extended from a single light source, the light could be sent to different rooms in a way similar to water plumbing in a building. This idea is now utilized in lighting systems, such as bringing sunlight into basements and tunnels. Due to the ineffectiveness of Willing's idea and to the concurrent introduction of Edison's highly successful incandescent light bulb, the concept of piping light never took off. That same year, Alexander Graham Bell developed an optical voice transmission system he called the photophone. The photophone used free space light to carry the human voice 200 meters. Specially spaced mirrors reflected sunlight onto the diaphragm attached within the mouthpiece of the photophone. At the other end, mounted within a parabolic reflector, was a light sensitive selenium resistor. As one spoke into the photophone, the illuminated diaphragm vibrated, casting various intensities of light onto the selenium resistor. The changing intensity of light altered the current that passed through the telephone receiver, which then converted the light back into the speech. Bell believed this invention was superior to the telephone because it did not need wires to connect the transmitter and receiver. Today, free space optical links find extensive use in metropolitan applications. After that, fiber optic technology experienced a phenomenal rate of progress in the second half of the 20th century. Early success came during the 1950s with the development of fibroscope. In the 1950s, the transmission of images through optical fibers was realized in practice. Hopkin and Kapani developed flexible fibroscope which was used by the medical world in remote illumination and viewing the interior of the human body. It was Kapani who coined the term fiber optics. His primary idea was to use them in medical instruments for looking inside the human body. He was keen on the fact that the use of fiber optics could be helpful in examining the insides of the human body along with the surgical practices. The concept to use tiny pipes that carry light was a remarkable one and a successful one as well in surgical practices. But early all glass fibers experienced excessive optical loss. The loss of the light signal as it traveled through the fiber, limiting transmission distances. Faced with the challenge of finding a transmission medium other than air, Charles and Hockham worked at the Standard Telecommunication Laboratory in England in 1966. Published a landmark paper proposing that optical fiber might be a suitable transmission medium if its attenuation could be kept under 20 decibels per kilometer. At the time of this proposal, optical fibers exhibited losses of 1000 decibel per kilometer or more. Even at a loss of only 20 dB per kilometer, 99% of light would still be lost over only 3,300 feet. That is, in other words, only 1/100th of optical power that was transmitted reached the receiver. Intrigued by Cow and Hockham's proposal, glass researchers began to work on the problem of purifying glass. In 1970, Dr. Robert, Donald and Dr. Peter teamed up at the Corning Glass Corporation to co-invent low-loss fiber optic cable that exhibited attenuation at less than 20 decibel per kilometer, the threshold for making fiber optics a viable technology. It was the purest glass ever made. Their invention has enabled the telecommunications revolution, rapidly transformed our society, the way we work, learn and live, and our expectation for the future. It is the basis for one of the largest, most dynamic industries in the world today. At the same time, gallium arsenide semiconductor lasers were developed that were compact and therefore suitable for transmitting light through the fiber optic cables for long distances. After a recession in the mid 1970s, the world economy grew vigorously in 1977 and 1978. Exploding global industries were hungry for communication, as was the US government, which was facing down military and ideological threats from the Soviet Union. The US government was the first to build a fiber optic line. In 1975, it used fiber to link the computers. In 1977, the first optical telephone communication system was installed by AT&T below downtown Chicago. Each fiber carried the equivalent of 672 voice channels. In the late 1990s through 2000, industry promoters and research companies predicted massive increases in demand for communications bandwidth due to increased use of the internet and commercialization of various bandwidth intensive consumer services such as video on demand. Companies such as Verizon and AT&T have taken advantage of fiber optic communications to deliver a variety of high throughput data and broadband services to consumers' homes. The progress of fiber optic communication across the past 6 generations has been nothing short of incredible. Performance has doubled every couple of years for half a century, transforming global communications. From humble first generation systems transmitting muffled audio at 45 megabits per second over short distances, we now have 6th generation systems pushing 100 terabytes per second capacity across global networks. As our world becomes increasingly interconnected, It is optical fiber infrastructure that delivers this connected information rich experience. And the technology continues to advance rapidly even today. Where it will lead us, the next remains to be seen. The future is light. So these are the references. Thank you.